And I have an exciting guest with me today. His name is Mr. Omar Siddiqui. How are you, Omar?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hey, doing fantastic today. Thank you for joining us, me, as well as everybody who's going to be tuning in. So, with that said, today we're going to be adding to this digital art renaissance series that we're doing. And what we're going to be adding to it is some great tips on how Omar was able to get his first commissions from social media. So this is huge. Like, we think about how commissions would have, you had to get commissions like back in the day, like from the early days of Da Vinci or like Michelangelo back then. Like you had to live in a town where there was people that could afford your art. If you were living in like the middle of nowhere, you could not like be found. Nobody knew who you were. No one could discover you. And you probably had to travel tens and tens of miles to collect supplies and think of all that. But today, and you had great artists back then, but most people probably couldn't even consider the opportunity. But I think today, the opportunity for artists is so vast, and especially with social media. So, I think it's amazing that you're willing to share some of your tips, advice, your wisdom, your experiences in what's possible today, what the opportunities are today, especially through social media. Now, I know you're a student right now too, but you've been learning for quite a while and you've gotten commissions. So, can you just give a little intro about the type of work that you do, as well as a little bit about your thoughts on social media and all that?
My name's Omar. I'm a concept artist, and the kind of work that I do, I mostly focus on environment design. Initially, I always wanted to do characters, but then when I got into characters, I was like, you know what? I think I want to experiment and learn a little bit more, right? And that's when I started doing environments. And when I painted my first environment, I was like, okay, this is fun. This is fun. I can actually tell a story through an environment. That was the main thing for me, storytelling. If you make a piece of artwork where people look at it and they can feel something, then that means you did your job, right? And as far as social media goes, I've been posting on social media since high school. Like we're talking 2013, 2014, when smartphones were first coming out, where they were like becoming more common back then. And I honestly first started off with just fan arts. They were just anime drawings. It was Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach, all those old school.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how you start, man. You just got to start from somewhere. And that's what I was into back then, right? And here's the thing with commissions is that if you try to get commissions, you will not get commissions. If you draw the stuff you like drawing, you will get commissions. That makes sense. Because that's what I was doing. I was just drawing stuff and posting stuff that I just enjoyed doing. And then someone might come across your artwork and they'll be like, oh my God, this is so cool. I want to pay this guy to do stuff for me. And my first commission, I didn't get it until like maybe 2 years ago. Even it was so random. It was the most random thing ever. And it was actually for a 3D project, because back then I was learning a little bit of 3D. I wasn't very good at it, but I was just doing like rough block-ins, a little bit of texturing, rendering. And then through Facebook, I have this Facebook page. This guy contacted me saying that he's making this app for his company or whatever, and he needed some 3D environment design, whatever. So that's how I got my first commission. I worked with him for like maybe 2 months or something. And then after that, for like 3 months, I did not have anything going on. And then through LinkedIn, someone else contacted me saying that, hey, we need some interior environment paintings. So I guess the other thing that also really helps is just like setting your location, making sure you're like connecting with people who are in your location, that like at least on LinkedIn, because a lot of people really like that, if they can find someone near them. So that's how I got my second commission. And then when that one was over, she referred me to another guy she knew. So that's how I got my third commission. And that's pretty much it. That's how it starts pretty much. Now, when you're first starting off, obviously you won't be getting like crazy money and you won't be getting like commissions constantly, but at least you'll get a start and you'll get the experience. And that's the most important thing, especially when it comes to concept art, where you're dealing with a client who wants something. Just understanding what they want is like the most difficult part of the whole job, because they're not the one drawing stuff. They're just telling you verbally in text, or just like, just verbally telling you what they want. And you have to somehow like make that. And I feel like communication, that's the toughest part when it comes to just getting commissions.
Yeah, for sure. And when you're working through social media, it can be tough to, you know, find that connection, because the person knows your art, but like, it takes the time to discover what it is exactly that they're looking for. And sometimes, you get so many messages through social media that you don't know like what's legit and all that.
Yeah.
But let's recap real quick. So you started posting in 2013, which, is pretty great, because, I didn't really start using social media like as a way to put anything out there. I just use it as like, oh, let me go on and, share some stuff about my life or whatever. But I didn't really start seeing it as like a real thing that, you could build a following off of until like probably a couple of years after that. But it sounds like you started posting your art, uploading, and I've gone through your page. You've got like so much great stuff, going back, and you had a lot of talent, even from, from some of your first posts. They were pretty decent works from what I've seen. And, you've definitely come a long way. So would you say that, the thing that drives you to post there is, being able to show your process, or is it more about just putting your work out there? Like, what is your thoughts around that? I mean, you mentioned that you don't do it so that you can get a commission at some point, but what motivates you, or you think anybody else to do that? Why should we?
So initially for me, that was the only thing I was good at, right? Like going through my life, high school, middle school, whatever, drawing was the only thing I was good at. And the only time when I got attention from people was when I was sitting in the corner drawing something. So I just kind of wanted to show people, hey, I like drawing. I make cool stuff. You should like my account, and you should you should follow my account and like my drawings and stuff. And actually, you know what? I totally forgot. I started posting way before then on Facebook. On Facebook, how you can create like photo albums. So back in 2009 or 10, I made this like art gallery album where I had like these really bad sketches. Like they were good at that time because I was like, 11 years old. But now when I look back, but that was more like a private little, because only people, your friends can like look at that. So it was more like a private gallery. But then that's when I first actually started. I used to take pictures with my little digital camera. It was one of those Sony cameras. Oh my God, they were so bad. But I feel like for me personally, that was the goal. I just really wanted to get my stuff out there. I just wanted to be recognized by people that, hey, I like drawing, and this is something that I just like doing, and I just want to share that with the world. Simple as that. Because initially I didn't really want to do it as a living. It was more like a hobby, right? And it was just for fun. So there wasn't really anything. Actually, I didn't even know you could make money with commissions back then. It was just me posting stuff. It wasn't until like 2016, 2017, when I got to college, where I started realizing that, okay, you can actually, get into either animation or game design or like film. And that's when I started taking it more seriously. So prior to that, it was more just like, hey, let me just post my stuff out there because, I have all these drawings and might as well just, have an account and let me just do it. But then after I started taking it more seriously, that's when I started thinking more about commissions and like, meeting the right people and, having a portfolio. And this is why I feel like just posting your stuff out there is so important, because even if you've been posting for like years, right? People can see, they can scroll down and see how far you've come, and they can tell that, hey, this person is serious at what they're doing, and they're not shy about putting their stuff out there. Like they want to be like known and they want to be recognized, right? And many people have this little phobia that, I'm not good enough, or, my stuff's not, no one's going to like it. People are going to bash it. And honestly, I'll tell you, I mean this like in the most loving way, but people don't care about you. Nobody cares. Everyone's busy in their own life. I promise you. No one has the time to like type in that, hey, you suck, stop posting, at least 90% of the time, and the reason why I know that is because it hasn't happened to me. I've been posting since 2013. It's been over 10 years, almost 10 years now. And not even once have I gotten a hate comment. It's either I get no comments or I just get like, hey, good drawing. So that's the one thing I feel like people need to like get over, that, hey, no one's going to bash your artwork, just post it. It's okay. Just take it easy, relax, because here's the thing though, people, they want to get commissions, but they don't want to put their stuff out there. And then they get stressed out about not getting commissions. So when I come across people like that, I'm like, hey, that's kind of on you. I mean, you need to put because if you don't put stuff out there, you do not exist. That's how it is now. Social media has come so far. It has come a long way. I mean, if you don't have if you're not on social media, you don't really exist at this point. And as far as like the entertainment industry is concerned, you really need to put your stuff out there. Unless you're really good and you have like really good connections and you just know a lot of people, then yeah, you can probably get away with it. But yeah, if you're just starting out, I would definitely encourage people to just post at least once a week, or not even once a week, maybe like once a month, like work on a really good drawing, like a polished piece, and then just post it, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And going back to some of the stuff that, we mentioned earlier, is this whole idea of just thinking about how difficult it was like back then to be an artist. Like you had to bring your tools from all over. There was no, like, even before digital. I was talking to one of my art mentors, and or art teachers, and he was saying how like even as close as like 2008 or something, like some of the people who were teaching physical art were saying, like not digital, we're like, don't go digital, like, not right now. It's not for you right now, So thinking that even just fairly recently, people were like against digital for whatever reason. I don't know the exact year or timeline, but somewhere around that time. And I just think it's so interesting to think about how, like, what the challenges were to be an artist like prior to social media. And then, right now, like we could share something every single day. Whereas back then you just had stuff piling up. And, I think it's great what you're saying of, just put your stuff out there. Like this is such like an amazing time for artists. This is such an amazing opportunity. So,
yeah. And, like summer of 2020 was like when COVID happened. You should have seen TikTok during that period. That's when I started making TikTok videos. And literally so many people started their small sticker business or, these little commissions, whatnot. A lot of them died out because, COVID kind of ended. But still, I feel like it was so strong. Like the power of the internet, it's crazy, That's when I actually started taking it even more seriously. Because before that, I used to go to school. It was a community college down there. And, I was very dependent on my teachers for everything. Like, if I had a question, I would wait till next week to go to school and ask them. But then when COVID happened, we were all kind of forced to like just do everything online, right? And that's when I started doing more research on like my own field, like concept art field. And that's when I found that there's so many resources out there, even for like learning stuff. And obviously, when I say this, I speak through my experiences, right? So, it may work, it may not work, right? But as far as like art and concept art is concerned, there's just so much stuff out there. Like people are literally like working professionals are selling their own tutorials like on Gumroad. And that's amazing information for like maybe quarter the price of like a university. You just got to look for it and find it. And that's how I found like these online art schools. And I'm like, okay, I think I like staying home and I like doing stuff on my computer in my bedroom, and I get money on gas. So that's always a plus, right? But yeah, and as far as like, I remember you mentioned that, a lot of traditional artists didn't really like digital back then. There's still a lot of people like that. And I feel like the reasoning behind that is that it depends on what you're using digital art for, right? If I were to make a piece of concept traditionally, it's going to take me months to make it. Now, if I'm a fine artist, then yeah, I might just do it all traditional because that's a completely different field. When you're painting, when you're more into like fine arts, you literally have to like get in the zone and like paint stuff. Like it's a different feel. You can't get that through digital. But as far as concept art is concerned, you just have to be quick and you have to like use all the tools that you got to like make the final image. It doesn't matter how you get there, but that's how you get there. That's how what am I trying to say? But yeah, you know what I'm trying to say here. And that's the one reasoning I give people, when I come across people who are more like traditional artists, they're like, oh, digital art is not real art, man. And I'm just like, well, I'm a concept artist, so I have to know digital and I have to use all the quick and dirty tricks to get there from point A to point B. So I'm going to do it. And that's funny. When I first started, oh, sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, you're in a row.
So when I was before getting into environments, right? I absolutely hated doing environments because I did not know how to do them. Because all the images that I saw on Google, all the environment concept pieces, they were just so cool. They were so polished. Everything's clean, so much detail. And I thought people just painted everything from scratch. I thought they just like put in all, they put in hours of work in it. But then when I started learning, I'm like, oh, it's literally just photo bashing and 3D and then just a little bit of paint over. What? And that kind of revolutionized my whole idea on digital art and concept art. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I've learned so much lately. And what I think is awesome is, you know, despite, the idea that fine artists, of course, they pride themselves in their work. And, many artists, I imagine, pride themselves in their work and their ability to create something on paper or whatever. And at the same time, I mean, there's this opportunity for people who are creative, but maybe, they're just not good with a pen and a brush. Maybe they're not good with like, colors and mixing paint, but you give them a computer and, it's like something just clicks for them and they're able to pick up the tools. It just makes sense for whatever reason. So I think that creates a great opportunity for so many. I don't want to call them like techie people because you think techie people, they, coding and stuff, but, artistic people who never really felt like drafting or like sketching, but obviously, they had to have some sort of desire to do so. But anyway, just this idea of, that gap between the fine art and the digital art.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing opportunity. Yeah.
And honestly, like when I literally saw people who couldn't draw anything on paper, but when it came to like building it in 3D, they were absolute badasses. Like they knew how to do it. So it's definitely something that it depends on. It varies from person to person. And, I still enjoy, I still have like maybe 10 sketchbooks that I use almost on a daily basis. Like nothing beats traditional, but at one point digital art is just so much faster, and it just depends on what you're doing. What's your end goal? What are you trying to make?
Yeah. And just what you were saying about the 3D, I mean, I'm totally there with you. I've heard of so many like great stories of people who, are able to take just about anything and put it into 3D, but you put like a paper and pencil in front of them and they can barely figure out how to do it. I don't know how that works in the mind. I think that's such an interesting thing to think about is, you give someone a 3D and they can create anything, but you give them like, paper, they just it's a struggle, but they're still artists. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And all right, cool. I want to go back to just briefly this idea of how you found your first commissions through social media. So what you mentioned was that, you were just posting and you got discovered through environment art, or did you get discovered with like character art? Like what?
It was actually environment art. Yeah. I was messing around with Blender and just posting stuff, and through Facebook, some guy saw my drawing. It was like a 3D render pretty much. And then along with that, I was constantly posting like environment paintings and studies and whatnot. So yeah, he saw my work and then he messaged me that, hey, I have this small team of people, developers. I was the only artist over there. And it was more like a freelance project. It wasn't really like a proper job. But he said, yeah, we're a team of developers. We're just making an app and we just need someone to do all this 3D work. And he only had a guy who did some 2D. Well, they weren't really concepts. They were more like very simple graphics done using Illustrator because for his website. So he just had that for reference. And now he was like, hey, I want to convert this into like 3D somehow. He had this whole concept of like this environment scene. I'm not going to get into that. We'll be here for hours if I start explaining all that. It was very complicated. But that's how I got my first commission. And,
okay, cool.
And the guy was really nice too. Luckily, every commission that I got, it was with good people, like, the good, sincere people. They didn't like flake on me or just like lowball me or whatever. And that's the other thing that's really important though. When you start getting commissions, right, you start realizing your worth. You start off slow, you start off with a lower number. And then as you keep getting more commissions, you start raising your prices just a little bit, And every time I raise my prices, I always made this little note that, hey, these are negotiable, just so that, they don't completely cancel my offer and I lose a project, right? So that's the other thing that's really important, just figuring out how much you're worth. Obviously, you're not gonna start off with like making big bucks in the beginning. You have to be humble with the whole process, because you're figuring out, the way that I think about it. So I used to work at a retail job, right? Where I was making like a certain amount. So I'm like, okay, so if I work at a retail job where anyone can work a retail job, right? I mean, it's not rocket science, but not everyone can be a good artist as me. So I should be making more money than a retail worker makes in an hour. So that's what I had in my mind. So I kind of raised my price according to that. Does that make sense? So let's say if someone in Walmart works $10 an hour, right? Now, me as an artist, if I work that, if I'm not making at least $10 an hour, it's not worth it. It's not worth it for me to give my services to someone. I might as well just go get a job at Walmart. You know what I mean? So I'd rather ask that person, hey, pay me $20 an hour, maybe as a start. And then that's when you start building a worth.
Yeah, absolutely. So totally just this idea that, the basic minimum wage, I mean, it's just, that's what it is. Basic minimum wage is for anybody, everybody, but like to do something unique, to do something special, to do art, something creative that like, things that are just literally creating something out of either nothing or references or, taking someone's idea and building on top of it. That's a whole different level of skill. So going to that point right there, this idea of, getting somebody's ideas. So these are, you did your commissions. Obviously you had to communicate with a person who was, trying to figure out what they wanted. And your job was to get it onto into a visual image. So what's your advice in, based on what you've learned for communicating for your first jobs? Like, how do you sound like a professional as opposed to just like, oh yeah, cool job. Let me draw it. And that's it.
I feel like the one thing that I always did is that I always like spend a lot of time just listening to them and constantly ask them questions. Like, for example, if they said, let's say we're having a conversation about something that he wants me to do. And after each sentence, I'll just double check. Okay, so you want me to make it this way. Okay, so you want it that way. So you're just having that constant conversation going and writing down notes, making notes as you're talking to them. Either type it on your computer or get a scratch paper or something, because you'll forget stuff. I promise you will forget once the conversation is over. The other thing is also just to let them know that, hey, I'm going to give you this many art iterations and, we're just going to stick with that. The chances are if you give them like a lot of iterations, they will like at least one of them, So definitely make that clear. Also, I would say make it clear how much you're going to get paid for the work. You either charge them hourly or you give them like a whole price for like a product. Now, the reason why I like doing hourly is because if they want me to work extra, I can just bill them like by the hour. Now, when you give them the price for like, like a whole price, right? You got to just have to like tell them that, hey, if you're going to ask more stuff, then I'm going to start charging you more, maybe hourly or something like that. So getting those things worked out in the beginning is like the best part, because then you can then focus on the project itself and you don't get any surprises at the end when they start paying you stuff. And also, it also depends on who the client is as well. If it's like a sincere person, they'll make sure you're taken care of, But if it's someone who's just like, who doesn't really care much, you just have to be a little bit more tricky about it. A lot of people, what they do, they'll ask for like half money upfront and the other half towards the end, which is a good strategy as well. I never did it that way because it just worked out for me, but I didn't have to. In fact, the last commission that I did, this guy, he had no deadline, no nothing, was really chill about it. And he paid me like in advance, the entire thing. If anything, it pressured me more to get this stuff done as fast as possible. So it honestly just depends on the client, but your job as an artist is just to like stay chill about the whole process, right? And try to get to know who your client is, like what are the things they need, right? And also try to get to know their personality, just talk to them and be like, hey, how's your day been? Things like that. A little bit of small talk also helps in just like clearing the energy, because this can be really stressful at times when you're getting your first commission, right? I mean, at least it was for me, because I was like, oh my God, someone's going to pay me for this. Oh, I hope I don't mess up. There's always this little thing in the back of your head. And I promise you, I did not mess up in the end. It was just like this negativity that just comes out of nowhere that, hey, you're going to fail. It's not going to work out. So you just have to like get over that. And it's really hard to get over that feeling, when you're first doing it. Because as artists, we're like humble people, because we're just drawing because I feel like 99% of us, we started drawing because it was fun and it's something we enjoyed doing. And when you start getting paid for something you were doing for fun, it feels a little off in the beginning. But once you accepted that, hey, this is kind of the thing that I want to do, and people make money from this, and I should respect myself. I should respect my time. I should respect my word. I'm not just gonna like draw random stuff. You have no idea how many times I get family members who just want me to draw their portraits and whatnot, and I've made it clear to them that, hey, you're gonna have to pay me this much amount if you want me to draw your daughter with her friends, and extra for like other siblings if I'm drawing two people. It's because people want free stuff all the time, man. It's crazy. And when you're kids, when you're in high school, that's fine. You're just in school, right? You don't really care much about it. But I feel like when you reach a certain level, you kind of have to let people know that, hey, I'm at this level now, and I want you to treat me with respect. You can't just expect me to like do stuff for free. I mean, did you eat for free at McDonald's the other day? No. Did you eat for free at Red Lobster? No. So why do you want me to like make something for free?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And what I think is also great is this idea that you have been around for quite a few years as well. So, it's not like, you just jumped in and said, hey, well, let me just start making stuff and, everybody has to pay me. Like there's, so, I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like, say you were just starting out like today, would you be more willing to collaborate on certain types of projects for free, or would you still think you'll be charging definitely more than minimum wage?
I feel like it'll depend on what the project is, honestly. If it's like because I feel like I did miss an opportunity on a project where it wasn't a paid project, but it was like a collaboration project, and I would have gotten some really good portfolio pieces if I would have like done it. It wasn't so if it's a project through which I can get some good portfolio pieces out, then I'll do it if it's not paid, right? Now, if it's just a project where he's like, hey, I've got this family of 6 people and I just need a portrait drawing for them, it's not going to benefit me in any way. I can't put that in my portfolio. I'm focusing on environment design. I can't put portraits of little kids in my portfolio. You know what I mean? So in that case, I'll probably decline. But then again, yeah, if I'm just starting out, maybe I won't decline. Maybe I just want to experience the whole commission thing. So I might just do it. So my advice for people would just be that go with your gut feeling. Maybe say yes to them, but then just throw it out there. Even if you're doing for free, just throw it out there. Hey, do you think I can get paid for this? At least they'll get them thinking. They'll start thinking, okay, maybe we should probably pay this person. Maybe we can tip him or something. But definitely, I think do not burn your bridges if you're getting a thing for the first time. Definitely try to get at least some money out of them. I don't care how much it is, just something. It'll just make you feel better. If anything, because you'll feel like, okay, I actually made even if it's $20, I don't care. At least you make those $20 making your very first commission, as opposed to not making anything, right? So that's what I would do.
Yeah, it's a totally great point. And I think what a helpful way to think of it is, if you're going to work for free, you might as well work for yourself in the sense that, you're building your own portfolio. Like if you're going to work for free, have it be a purpose that, you could not like pay yourself, but at least have something that you're building for yourself. And, if it doesn't help you and it only helps the other person, then there's got to be, why, right? That's a big question.
Exactly. Because I feel like time is just so important, man. It takes hours to make stuff. And if you're like a college student, if you got a part-time job, you got assignments, on top of that, if you're working on a commission that you're not getting paid for and you can't even put that in a portfolio, I feel like that's a really bad situation to be in.
Yeah, it is. And, working in Los Angeles, working in Los Angeles entertainment, that's such a big question is how much should you do for free? And, there's a huge element of, today when everyone's trying to post stuff online and, turn their social media profiles into something successful, but almost 99% of people are not getting like a regular steady paycheck from it. It's like, who to work with and all of that. And even then, what I think is interesting is even if you do end up like working with people, like so many things can happen along the way that, who's
legit?
You decide? Yeah. But anyway, I mean, that's a whole separate rabbit hole. And as you mentioned, it is a really big, important thing to trust your gut, trust your instinct. I mean, if you don't get along with a person, definitely like that, it's pretty obvious not to work with them. But, and even then, that's even for like the paid situations. Like if you're paid, and you're getting paid like, okay, but the other person's a complete and total jerk and like you don't really click with them, then, that's also doing a piece of, what's it called? Trusting your gut, knowing your worth. And then at the same time, if someone's very, I know I saw a couple jobs lately on LinkedIn, they're nonprofits. And it's like, where do you set your thing? So thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. And okay, cool. Now, you did mention, and you didn't dive too deep into this, but I'm hoping you can. Like, can you dig in a little bit more about what it looks like, what the actual conversation looks like from the beginning to like the end, from some commissions that you had? Like, is a person messaging you on Facebook and what they're just like, hey, I'll pay you X amount of money, and then you just start asking them questions? Like, how does that process work in a professional way?
Okay, yeah. So it actually was like, it was a little, I wouldn't call it weird, but okay, that's how it went. So he just private messaged me that, hey, Omar, I saw your work on your Facebook page. Are you available to work right now on a freelance gig? And I'm like, okay, first I read that message. I'm processing. Oh my God, this man just messaged me. Who is this guy? I first like stalked him a little bit just to see, what does he do? Whatever. But yeah, he seemed like a normal person, nothing weird on his profile. So I messaged him back that, hey, I'm available. And then he's like, okay, can we have like a Zoom call or something? It'll be easier. And I told him, yeah, totally. And then throughout the Zoom call, he just went right in explaining what his project was first. And then he asked me whether I was interested in working for him. And then when I said, as he was explaining his project, I was asking him questions also, like nothing too crazy, just trying to get like an idea about what I will be doing. But that was the initial part. And once that got over, once he asked me if I can work for him on like for like a month or two on this gig, then he asked me, okay, so what are your rates? And then I told him that, okay, I first Googled like what's the base rate for concept art. I took like the base hourly value because I did not know how much to charge him. I'm like, hey, yes, I'm going to charge you this much. I'm going to charge this much money per hour. And he was okay with it. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. And then from then on, he just started sending me files, and we were just going back and forth constantly. We had like this, they were on WhatsApp. They had like this group chat on WhatsApp where he connected me with the other people from the team. And then I was just constantly posting my work in progresses, and they would give me feedback. And I would work on it more, and I would get feedback, and I work on it more. And, there are times when, clients can get very picky on like little things. He's got to be mindful of that. And if it's something that's easily fixable, just do it. If it's not, you tell them that, hey, I can't do it, but I can do this instead, and, try to like cover it up. But that's how it was on the first one, at least. The second commission was kind of similar to where, so she contacted me, that lady, and she said that my creative director is going to contact you through email, whatever. And then he said the same thing, hey, can we meet for a video call? It'll be a lot easier. So he kind of shared his screen, and then he showed me what he wanted. And then after he was done sharing what the project was, he asked me, hey, so how do you feel about this? And I told him, yeah, totally, I'll do it. And then that's when he asked me, okay, what's your rate? And then I gave him my rate. And then the third one that I did was kind of the same way too, but I didn't really have a video call with him. It was more just like through messaging. But yeah, they usually just start off with explaining their project, and then they'll ask, at least in my case, and then they ask me that, hey, are you available? And if you are, what are your rates? I've only worked on like 3 commissions so far, so that's all I've got. But yeah, that's how it was for me, at least.
Yeah, dude, totally. I mean, no matter what, no matter how many commissions you have, there's at least 100, a few thousand people that have never had one. And there's this thing of just that feeling of, what do I do? And some people feel the need that they have to know like the next step. So to have this process shared from you, and to know that you got it through social media, literally just by doing what you enjoy every single day, drawing, and then putting it onto social media. I mean, that's some really powerful stuff. So anybody who's listening, you have that experience, and, we can totally take away from it. I mean, when I got my first commission, I was just at a random hotel bar during a wedding drawing, right? Because I had just finished a funeral, and it was my last night there, and I decided to have some drinks at the bar, and it was like they were like, yeah, hey, will you do this for us? And it's great because from that side they just made me an offer, and I was like, oh yeah, why not? But for you, you had to go through a process. You had this whole process of, discussing like what your job was going to be, who you're going to be communicating with, all that extra high level like communication that most of us can miss. And if we're primarily artists, or most of us, we just go through school as an artist or whatever, we don't really have that experience. So it's great to hear that from you. All right, awesome. So with that said, I mean, did that motivate you to post more on social media?
Yeah. I mean, nothing really changed. I was just posting at the same frequency as I was posting. Lately, I haven't been posting as much because I have so much homework. But usually whenever I get like a break, that's when I start like going through personal stuff, and then I'll start posting at least every 2 days or 3 days. The other thing that I want to also like really emphasize on, like, if you really want to use the power of social media, you need to figure out what your niche is, right? Are you the guy who makes robots? Are you the guy who makes these really pretty looking girls? Are you the guy who makes like these spaceships? Something that I'm still trying to figure out. I haven't gotten figured out yet because I love doing like so many things at once. But once you get that figured out, once you get to be known as this one guy who does a specific thing, that's when you'll actually start seeing your like account blow up. You know what I mean? And also just being consistent, but in the quality of the work you post. I was posting like a lot of like speed paintings, environment paintings, like every day, but they weren't good at all. They were just like done in like an hour, 2 hour. And I kind of felt like the quality of my account like went down quite a bit. So instead, I started focusing more on just like spending days or maybe weeks on a specific really cool drawing, and then I'm going to post it, right? And that's the other thing, right? You don't want to get too caught up in social media, especially when you're learning stuff about yourself as an artist, when you're learning skills that you need to like work in the industry, because then it can be too much. Because let's say, for example, you have college classes on figure drawing, but then your Instagram account is filled with environment stuff. So where are you going to find the time to like post everyday environment stuff, but then work on your homework for your class, So you just got to be chill about the whole process, take it easy. The world's not ending anytime soon. It almost ended 2 years ago, but I would just say, just relax, go with your gut feeling, and let's go with the flow.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. So right now you mentioned that you're primarily focused on environment art.
Yeah.
Cool. And with that said, I mean, what sort of environment art are you like focused on? Are you doing a certain type of like specific category or anything like that?
Well, I'm really into sci-fi stuff. I haven't really posted that much, but I'm learning it right now. I'm learning like the little tools, and I'm learning a new 3D software right now it's called 3D Code. Have you heard about it? So 3D Code is like this really cool software. You can literally just like draw in 3D with voxels. It's crazy, and there's just so much you can do with it. And I'm learning that right now. Once I get that figured out, I feel like I'm going to start posting more sci-fi environments because it looks so cool. Other than that, I always enjoy doing fantasy as well, but I'm going more towards sci-fi. So yeah.
Yeah, I something similar to that I heard is grease pencil on Blender.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing?
I haven't tried it honestly, but there's some. It's kind of the same thing, yeah. But with grease pencil, you have to draw everything out in 2D first, right? And then it kind of like blows it up and it makes it into a 3D form. But with 3D Code, you're just drawing in 3D, like you're literally drawing in 3D, if that makes sense. You know how in Photoshop you paint with the paintbrush, right? You just imagine Photoshop in 3D. You're painting with a 3D brush, where you're painting from like 3 different angles: top, bottom, side. So that's like a game changer, because you don't have because then you can easily see your forms in 3D and just like just model them as you go without worrying about how many polygons you have, how many counts you have. And you can easily just like make that rough model in 3D Code, whatever, and then bring that in Blender and then texture and light it, which is a lot more faster. So I'm just trying to like trying to figure out that perfect 3D, 2D workflow right now. But yeah, that's what I'm focusing on.
Yeah, and I've heard so many things about the 2D 3D workflow. Like I'm much newer to the art game than you, and all of that, and it's just mind blowing. Like how much is out there and how much like things are starting to like come together with 3D, 2D, and like just all the moving pieces of like how 2D artists are work with 3D artists. And it's amazing. It's so cool. I think it's absolutely fascinating to be able to experience some of the things that are happening in art and digital art and, entertainment as well. So,
and
with
if I may
that,
add to that,
yeah,
a lot of the concept work for Last of Us 2, literally everything was done in 3D, even though it's concept art, like 90% of the concepts done were in 3D. Like, I feel like 3D is going to become like a requirement. Like it already has become a requirement, depending on what project you're working on, unless it's like a stylized game or a stylized film, whatever. But a lot of these like AAA games and a lot of movies, like you have to like know 3D to some extent.
oh yeah, 100%. And the way what I've been hearing a lot is this idea that, the concept artists that are already around, they plan on being around, and even the 2D ones, right? They plan on being around. So,
right.
If you're just jumping in now, then you got to have extra advanced skills if you want to be able to, get into the game, be a part of the pool or whatever. So totally hear that. And I have had like, I've spoken with people, I have people like friends that are like, that are connected, but if you don't have a 3D skill, like there's only so much they could do for you, right? There's so much that they can help you with. So, but of course they work for 3D companies. So of course I'm sure that there's some need for 2D, but anyway, going into, I've seen your work. If you had a course, I would probably go through it, just to learn some photo bashing stuff that you do. You've got some great work, and, you constantly, well, I feel like you constantly post on social media, but, I see you putting some work out there. So, a question to you is, you've already touched on the idea of how to like post on social media to get your first job and how to like do that commission interaction. So what are your thoughts on the overall learning process? Like what were some of the things, not just like learning, like that's tough to like evaluate, but what do you think were the things that you did that really gave you the biggest impact? Like what were some things that you noticed about your work that one day you were just like, oh, that my work is that much better right now? Did you ever have any moments like that?
Oh yeah, I actually did. I have this old sketchbook from 2 years ago that I was going over it. I'm like, damn, I was so bad 2 years ago. But the one thing I will like, in order to become a good artist, right, you constantly have to experiment. Like, if I tell you right now that I hated environments, would you believe me?
No, but quick question. All right. So, as artists, we tend to judge ourselves, and you said what you did 2 years ago was pretty bad, but was it like, and for someone listening, it's like, how bad? Most people are thinking like stick figures with like, weirdly drawn hands, right? Like, so where were you at? You've been in for like a decade, right? So like, where were you 2 years ago? And
so 2 years ago was when I first started doing portraits. Before that, prior to that, I was only drawing like anime. And so when I made that big jump into going from like 2D flat forms to like 3D faces, it was quite a big jump, honestly, because, you're dealing with all these forms. And then the one thing that I constantly did, for some reason, I just overly, like I used to draw in pencil and I used to do like crosshatch shading. Now I put marks literally everywhere on the face. Like you don't need to put that many marks, just like a few gestures here and there. But I used to do that a lot for some reason. So there are these little things that you figure out along the way, right? I mean, let me rephrase that. It did not look bad. Those drawings were not bad at all. But since I started getting so much better at it, that only I could see those mistakes. You know what I mean? But yeah, other than that, I feel like that's like every artist, you'll make one drawing, 2 weeks later, you'll be like, oh, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely look back at some of my early stuff from even just a few months ago. I'm like, wow, okay, well, I'm so glad I put it into practice to improve on that, because it's hilarious how different it looks. Mm.
But I really wanted to emphasize on the experimentation part, because like that's when my whole life changed, like as an artist. Because when I made the decision that, hey, I want to stop drawing anime, I want to start drawing other things, I want to start drawing real people, that's when I started growing as an artist. I feel like just having that mind switch, having that mindset that, hey, I want to learn more, I want to experiment, I want to see what's out there, I want to experiment with different mediums, with different subjects, right? And so the way it worked for me is that I first started off with just doing flat portraits, whatever, right? I did that. This is 2019. Actually, that's more than 2 years ago. That's like almost 3 years ago. Wow, a little over that. But 2019, that's when I made that change that, hey, I need to draw something else. I'm tired of drawing environments. And that's also the time where one of my college professors told me that, hey, you cannot put anime in concept art, in a concept art portfolio. That's a thing here. If you have anime in your concept art portfolio, you're not going to get hired, because apparently people don't like that here in like the industry, whatever. So that kind of was like a big thing for me. I was like, shit, all I ever did was anime, right?
How many years were you drawing anime, just to get
Oh
an
my
idea?
God, I've been drawing since like 13 years old. I'm 24 right now. So when I was 13,
Oh,
that's when I
wow.
actually,
Okay.
yeah, that's when I started getting into anime. And from 13 to like 20 years old, I guess, 2021, it was only anime.
Like that blows my mind. So, okay. So what was the thing that prevented you from experimenting? Was it just like not having the idea, or do you think like you
It's just
just,
that I wasn't very serious about it. I was doing it as a hobby. So when you're doing stuff as a hobby, you constantly stay in your comfort zone. You know what I mean? When I was in school, I wasn't initially an art major. I was more of like an electrical engineering major. Did that for like 2 years. And then I switched over to computer science, did that for another year. And then I was like, man, I can't do this shit. I need something. That's when I started this is back in 2018 when I started like looking into like other majors, whatever. And that's when I found out that, hey, my college has a program in animation, let me just do that instead. That sounds cool. So once I made that change, when I met more people like me, and when I met my competition, that's when I was like, okay, I gotta like step my game, because I've only anime in my portfolio. So yeah.
yeah. Okay. So here's a question. I mean, what was the competition like? I mean, I didn't go to a traditional art school, so I'm just kind of curious, like what sort of revelation you had when you reached that point.
Well, honestly, in my class, it was a small community college, right? So there weren't that many kids to begin with, but there were like 2-3 kids in my class who were just like really, like they did not draw anime at all. They were just really into concept art in general. Even though it was an animation class, they were really into concept art, and they were kind of like really famous in our class. A lot of kids from like other classes knew them too and whatnot. And then when I looked at their work, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Well, I mean, I should be doing stuff like this too. I mean, when I show my stuff, it's just like fan art, like screenshots from like different episodes. So that was the thing that kind of pushed me to try out other things. So that's when I started doing portraits. And then when I did portraits, I was like, okay, I want to learn something else. And then that's when I got into environments. So I got into environments in 2020. And since then, I've been like really into environments.
Yeah, I love that story so much because, when we think about like the things that really motivate us, that like really get people to kick things up a notch or take it to the next level, it's one thing to say, oh, well, I drew a circle or drew figures for hours and I took classes, but it's also important to think about those actual events that motivate us to really take that next step. As you mentioned, it was maybe a little bit of a competition, or maybe it was just getting the realization that the stuff that you were doing is not going to help you in a career unless you're going into anime, I guess. So that was such an interesting. So, here's a quick question. I mean, what made you decide to not just continue pursuing a career in anime? Like, how come you couldn't just do that? Was there a specific
Well,
reason?
anime, because like, and I feel like, I don't know, living in the States, it's kind of tricky to pursue a career in anime, because anime is pretty popular now. Don't get me wrong. Like back in the day, it was the nerdy thing, right? But now it's the cool thing, and I'm so happy it's that way. You know what I mean? But I feel like a lot of the animes are made in Japan, and honestly, I don't know. There's something that I've heard from other people, but they don't get paid that well. Living over there, and a lot of anime, it's a lot of animation. And after I studied animation for like 2 years, I realized that I cannot do this. It's very tedious for me. I'm more into like fast-paced work. I'd rather just like spend a week or a few days on like a concept and then move on. right? That's all the other thing why I can't do illustrations, because people literally spend months on, those Riot illustrators and people working at Blizzard. They spend hours and days on like illustrations. So that's just the one thing that kind of stopped me from anime. And also I kind of felt like, I don't know if you felt this way, but sometimes when you keep drawing the same thing over and over and over again, at one point you get tired, you get bored of it. You're like, okay, let me see. I'm tired of doing this. Let me see what else I can do. Let me see how far I can push myself. Right. And that's the kind of mindset you need to be a concept artist, because you're constantly learning. I mean, Blender is big right now, but I don't know, 6 years later, something else might be big. Right. So you constantly have to have this mindset of just learning new stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. And also going, on that topic of 3D, what I think is also amazing is this. I was just watching a video today, and it was talking about, I think there's a movie Encanto. It's like a Disney animation film, and they were showing how it was made. And it was, of course, it's an animation film. It's all 3D, but of course they were using, mocap, motion capture.
Yeah.
So what I think is also really amazing right now is not just the idea that, of course, things are going to 3D and all of that, but the amount of technology now, even if it all was the transition to there, I mean, there's so many job opportunities for not just like the animators and like that side of things, people that like do the rigging and all that, but also the actors. Cause I think they're probably going to be in more demand, actors who are in the area of mocap and knowing how to do those types of scenes and that type of work. But I really enjoy mocap. Like I'm sure
mocap's cool. Yeah. I've seen people do it. It's really cool.
Yeah, I was just watching the God of War guy. I don't actually know the actor's name, but yeah, his voice and like his demeanor is just pretty amazing to watch him work.
Did you watch that documentary they released like 2 years ago or something?
For God of War?
Yeah.
I didn't see the documentary. This was just like
really cool. You gotta watch it. They break down the whole mocap scene and everything. It's really nice.
Oh yeah, I'll have to check that out. I saw this was maybe this was like a 12-minute clip. Maybe it was even out of the documentary. Who knows? But all right, awesome. Well, hey, so you shared some great thoughts on, what motivated you to go for, to transition out of something. Like it can be really tough for people to get out of something that they've been doing for 11 years, right? Like and to be able to make that change, it says a lot about, someone's adaptability, someone's willingness to like, change, learn and all that. So with that said, I mean, where has it taken you today? I mean, where would you say you are today and where you want to continue to push that adventure?
I feel like the one thing that I kind of figured out through the whole experimentation was that I finally feel like I have a purpose, right? Like I want to make cool, badass environments. Done. Period. That's my purpose in life. That's my goal in life. So that's the biggest thing. Because we as human beings, we need a goal to achieve. We need a goal that we need to work towards, right? If you don't have a goal, you're just living life. You're just doing, because before becoming an artist, I was literally doing whatever my parents were telling me to do. I was doing whatever my uncle was telling me to do, whatever my cousins were doing. Hey, do this, do that. Hey, you should become a doctor. Hey, become an engineer. Hey, you'll make money. Hey, do this. No, you should try that. No, get this. It's this constant weird cycle. So you have the one thing that when you start learning stuff on your own, when you start respecting yourself more, you start realizing things about yourself that you never knew in the beginning. And you start realizing who you are as a person, right? And that's the most important thing, before pursuing a career, you just got to realize who you are as a person. What are your values? What do you like? What do you want to do? Right. And what do you want to do for this world? And for me, I really enjoy educating people as well. I mean, I kind of had this small YouTube channel where I was posting tutorials like back in 2020, but I kind of stopped because, I just got busy with life, I guess. But that's the other thing, right? And if I were to look back at myself, like 5 years ago, I just feel like I'm more confident in my abilities now, because 5-6 years ago, I was only drawing anime and I was only drawing these cool anime characters, posing and Kamehameha or Rasengan or Chidori or something. But now I can actually show like a cool 3D environment piece that just looks like it's so complicated. It's funny because I was showing my mom the other day some of these 3D spaceship designs I made in 3D code. And she was just like, you made that? This looks so complicated. And honestly, it wasn't complicated at all. It was so easy because 3D code is such a powerful, as long as you know your tools, right? You can like get away with making like badass stuff. And it takes like 30 minutes, right? The other thing I feel like that's really important is just once you figure out that one thing you want to do, right, then you can actively take action and work towards it, right? As opposed to just being like, oh, I want to do environments, I want to do characters, I want to do props, also want to make movies, I want to like animate, I want to rig, I want to do post-production stuff, I want to try VFX. There's so much out there. So at one point you kind of have to like sit down and just ask yourself, hey, what do I want? What do I really want from this life? What do I want to do for a living? What would I like? Let's say, how do I say this? If I were to like work for someone, like if they're paying me to do something, what would that one thing be? And for me, it's environments now. And I kind of figured that part out. So now I know that, hey, I want to be an environment artist, an environment concept artist. So I'm going to learn all the things that'll make me a more employable artist, right? The first thing was just learning the basics. Okay, 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective. Cool, we got that down. Okay, now let's learn color. Okay, let's learn. And you never stop learning. Like I still suck at basic perspective, but hey, fake it till you make it. But once you get that figured out, then you start looking at more advanced techniques. Okay, let me learn 3D now. Let me learn the tools that I need to make 3D environments. I'm not going to learn animation. I'm not going to learn rigging. I'm not going to learn all the other particle effects, VFX. No, stay away from that. Only learn the tools that will help you make better environments. That's how you start. Because a lot of people, what they do is that they'll get into a 3D program, right? And they want to learn everything. Like they don't know what they want to do with it. They just want to learn it. And then in a week later, they're like, oh, it's so hard. I can't. This is so hard. I hate my life. Yeah, you hate your life because you have no goal. You have to figure out your goal first. Have like a clear mindset, what you want to do. And honestly, if you're going into a 3D software with a mindset that I want to learn everything, then at least be open-minded about it. That, okay, this will not work out the way I want it to, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going until I figure out what's the one thing I want to do, right? And the reason why I say that is because I felt like I kind of sounded as if like, hey, you don't have a goal, you suck. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, experiment as much as you can, right? And just don't give up. Just don't give up, experiment, keep experimenting. And when you figure out that thing that you want to do, just laser focus, just focus on that one thing. One thing that one of my mentors told me is that it's the 80-20 rule. Do 80% of like what you really want to do, 20% of the other stuff, just so that you have that variety, at least in a portfolio. So that's what I would say pretty much to that.
Yeah. So many great things that you just mentioned right there. I mean, that's a really powerful thing is if you have no goal set or no specific area, it's easy to get lost and get frustrated, but the real frustration probably isn't coming from your inability to learn a specific thing. It's coming from the idea that you don't even know what you want to do. So, that's very powerful what you said there, at least, in my opinion, but as well. And, I think that there's this idea that you just mentioned, you were talking about the perspective thing. And I think this also goes back to like, you really got to choose like what it is that you want to focus on. Like if you want to do 3D, I mean, perspective is just like it's not as, important as someone who wants to draw like comic book illustration covers. And, yes, it's important to like know the fundamentals, but like, if you're designing a square building, a square, right? Like you don't have to know how to draw that in perspective because the perspective is already going to be there with the camera. But you probably do have to know like, camera placement and, where you have to place the light and like how to use all the other technical tools. So many great things you mentioned. And, especially I think why it's so important what you're saying right now, especially today, is because there is this, transition between 2D and 3D. And it can be really difficult to decide, well, what fundamentals are important because, there's teachers out there that are like, you have to learn how to draw like a perfect, ellipse. Yep. But if you're looking at 3D, you don't really, you could learn just for the purpose of learning, but you just got to know how to design it. But anyway, that's a tangent. So thanks so much, Omar. I mean, what are your words that you would like to wrap up with in terms of, getting people to put themselves out there and go ahead and take their career to the next level?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I am bald. I lost my hair at 24 years old. And when I walk in public, no one gives a shit about me, right? Similarly, if you post your stuff out on social media, no one's going to care enough to hate on you. So just do it. Simple as that. A lot of people are just scared about it. They're scared that I'm going to be judged. People are going to make fun of me. I'm not good enough. I'm not there yet. If you scroll down my Instagram post, if you scroll all the way down, it's literally not even me. It's like, I wouldn't call it bad art, but if I were to compare it to what I'm right now, it's literally the worst for my eyes, at least. But when it comes to social media, I would say just relax and just start posting, like, and don't get too lost in the likes and follows. Do it genuinely. Do it because you want to share your artwork out there. Do it because you want to, you want the world to see what you're capable of, right? Don't do it for the likes. I promise you. If you do it for the likes, if you do it for the clout, you're not going to be happy. You're just going to be drowning in the likes. You'll constantly be checking your phone. Okay, how many likes I got? Dang it, 2 likes. I spent like hours on this drawing. I'm never posting again. That's what's going to happen. And I'll tell you, that happens with me too. Sometimes I get like so lost in those, and it will happen to you. You just got to get out of it, and just be really chill about the whole situation. Definitely do it when you're ready. I don't want to sound like I'm forcing someone to do it, because a lot of people have this anxiety, right? And it also comes from personal struggles as well. So I would definitely say that it's going to be okay. Relax. No one's coming out to get you. No one's going to leave you hate messages. No one's going to, at least not in the beginning though. If you become a celebrity someday and you make a tutorial that no one likes, then maybe, yeah, okay. But that's not going to happen anytime soon, right? So just start posting, just start building up a gallery, right? The best thing about Instagram is that I can just literally pull out my phone and be like, hey, look at my drawings. This is the stuff that I make. If I do not have an Instagram, I only have my ArtStation. And ArtStation has 5 drawings, 6, 7 portfolio pieces that are just environment pieces, right? But my Instagram has all kinds of cool stuff. And I can literally just keep scrolling and keep showing people that, hey, so you have a personal gallery in your phone. You don't have to carry around your drawings everywhere, right? So that's the other thing that's really cool about just posting your stuff out there. And as I mentioned before, just don't give up, just keep at it. You have to enjoy the process. You have to, that's just how it is. You don't get good at art overnight. You have to really commit hours, and you don't have to commit crazy hours, man. As long as you know what you want to do, even if you spend 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day, I don't know how much time you spend. You don't have to spend crazy amounts of time. You don't have to sacrifice your sleep and work on your drawings for 6 hours at night. You don't have to do any of that. If you can dedicate 1 hour of your life, and you can actually laser focus, you just focus on the things that'll get you from point A to point B, that's more healthy than spending 6 hours where you're spending 3 hours watching cat videos and the other 3 hours just doing something else. So be smart about the time that you spend. You could spend hours drawing a circle, right? But if you're not going to use that circle to make something, it's not going to benefit you in any way. So, yeah.
Nice. Powerful. Very nice. Okay. And, as people have been listening, they've probably been wondering, what's the best way to take a look at your work? What's the best way to contact you if they want an environment or if they want to get some inspiration?
So honestly, I'm super active on Instagram. So that would be my main, but I mostly post on Instagram and TikTok, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, I go by the handle OmarDraws.28. So y'all can just message me, just DM me. Yeah, I do have a Facebook page, but I'm not very active on it. And ArtStation, I'm on ArtStation as well. On ArtStation, I have my full name. It's Omar Siddiqui, and y'all can contact me up there. And yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a pleasure, Omar. Thank you so much for jumping in, and thank you all for listening. Have a great day, everybody.
All right. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of